If you look at the evolution of models in the real estate space, it used to be mom and pops. Then these franchises came out and then they exploded. And then that was for like a while. There was like a heyday, but the problem was it went from 50-50 splits and that shrunk because then they went to like capping mechanisms that came out and, it started to shift, right? And then you have the KWs of the world and they explode because they have a capping mechanism and they offer like a little bit of profit share, which is much different than revenue sharing. And then you have the cloud-based model that comes out, which solves for the problem of staff and space. So I believe what you're witnessing happening with all of these changes, there's two things. One is there's structural changes to the way we transact. That'll be who has access to data, when they have access to it, MLS systems, the whole thing with Compass, Clear Co-op, like that whole thing. That's the kind of structural mechanisms with which we transact and do business, right? And then there's industry patterns and what's taking place in the brokerage business. And what I believe what we're seeing is a massive consolidation. I think we'll see more of it. I think other big brands will go in the same direction in terms of consolidating. And I think we might look at the landscape in like 24 months and it'll look entirely different from a brokerage perspective. Yeah. And really that's a response to the traditional model just no longer being tenable as far as like being able to make money. We've sat with brokers that have 1,000 agents in traditional models and their profit margins are negligible. They're like 5%.
Well, I think the sad part is that agents don't realize the business model of brokerages. Like I know agents that are like, hey, look, I'm just going to go and open up my own brokerage.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm just like, why would you do that? And I'm like, what if I told you that that brokerages run at a less than a 10% profit margin? What if I told you that brokerages don't actually make money off the brokerage? They actually make money off the ancillary services. And then I'll hear things like, well, I couldn't live with myself unless I tried this,
I know. You know what they're really saying to you? My ego is so big that I refuse to listen to anything that you're saying. That's not your heart, team. That is pride and ego. That's what's doing it. So, but the other interesting thing too, which I find is fascinating, we had a brief conversation about this in terms of like, teams are smaller versions of brokerages. I know somebody, okay, who is like, hot to trot, the big deal. They do hundreds and hundreds of units and they are in production. They are selling real estate again. Teams, 10, 30, 40 agents, they're mini brokerages and they have the same problem. So what I find fascinating is nobody's really like aggressively and forcefully saying to people, hey, you need to rethink this. We need to rethink all models. Well, kind of Glenn is a category creator, right, with EXP, because he did that and ushered in the cloud-based, which makes all the sense in the world because it eliminates the two biggest expenses, which are staff and space. Because remember, we were on a call with that guy, 1,000 agents, 5% profit margins. He's like, yo, I think in the next 5 years, there'll be no profit. And I looked right at him. I'm like, yeah, in your model there won't. But I think the same thing needs to be done for teams. There needs to be a rethink on how it functions. Because right now it functions like an old school brokerage where the agents make very little of the commission, maybe 30% when it all shakes out. And after they pay their fees and after they pay Zillow Flex referrals and all this other stuff, and the team leader has to do an insane amount of units to make the money that they want. I told you, I talked to a guy who does 800 units, makes $1 million on 800 units. You're like, what? That's crazy, bro. You'll do 150 units and net $1 million. Like, what are we doing?
Is he still in production or no?
No, but still, like, think about all, like, that's insane. Think about all that friction. Think about all the people. Think about all the kind of liability. It's just wild, all the expenses to be able to do that. So there needs to be a rethink for both. Now, on the brokerage side, it's already been rethought.
Yeah.
Right. It's cloud-based. That's the way. But it's the same for the team, because I think we've been the kind of collective consciousness for the last 20 years in our industry is here's the progression. You're an agent and then, you're like, hey, this is really hard and I want to get some leverage, and then you create a team and then I open a brokerage if I want to do that. Like, that's the progression, but we're constrained by our understanding of leverage. So what I think is super fascinating is when you look at what's happening and these are big numbers, guys, $1.6 billion, big numbers. Okay. When we see what's happening at scale, they're showing you that it's not working. When you have somebody sell out, again, speculative, I don't know how much he sold, but I know private equity is usually not interested in less than 50%, at least 50%, the private equity. And you have one of the largest conglomerates of brands selling out, they're telling you, this is not working. But yet we're kind of following the same path by going down the path of like, oh, let me create a team. I'm like, let me do it, right?
What do you think the play with Keller is now that private equity?
Well, yeah. So here's the interesting thing. So private equity, when you really think about it, two things. One, they're not interested for long-term ownership. They want to own maybe 5 years tops, and they want to exit. They either want to take it public or they want to sell it. They're not interested in keeping forever. Now you have to think about from their perspective, this is a deeper level conversation, but it'll make sense if you hang with me. So franchises are actually not in the brokerage business. They don't make money selling real estate. Franchises are in the business of selling franchises. And then they monetize the relationships in the form of like, let's say like you bought like a Burger King franchise. They're not in the business of selling burgers, okay? They're in the business of selling Jose a burger franchise, a Burger King franchise, but then they monetize the relationship with Jose. They make money off Jose by selling him ingredients, cup straws, right? You have to use all their stuff, and they get a royalty fee, which is like, let's say 6% of sales, which is top line revenue, it's revenue sharing. Franchise brands have more in common with, let's say, like real estate brands have more in common with, let's say, like Yum Brands. Yum Brands owns like Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, whereas EXP, we're a brokerage firm. If the goal is to take it IPO or the goal is to sell it, you want to make it more valuable. How do you make it more valuable? You increase revenue. But how are you going to increase revenue when you don't actually make money selling real estate? It's an interesting question. Because then it starts to lead you down this path. How do they actually make money? Well, the first is a tech fee. The company that bought them out, or the private equity firm, they own two separate software companies. Okay, I think Lone Wolf and another one. So they're going to bundle that into the tech fee and they're going to start raising the tech fee. Because that's how they actually make money. Because think about it, if you could raise the tech fee $50 on 170,000 people, it's a lot of money. Second way is coaching. I think they'll push that and they'll, raise the prices, all that. But then the third is, and this is the important one, what would drop the like a lot of money to the bottom line, like 40%? It's that royalty fee. So I think what they're going to do systematically over time is they're either going to buy back, let's say like the region, or they're just going to take it by force, because that'll drop a whole bunch of money at bottom line, make it more comfortable, so make it more profitable so they can exit. That's just business, bro.
Bro, I have people walking in the office like, is Aaron coming live or what's going on?
No.
Is Aaron coming live?
My bad, team. My bad. We got him ready, willing, and able. Lots of stuff to talk about, dudes. Lots of stuff going on in the real estate industry, huh? I guess one topic that seems to be on everybody's mind at the moment is like this government shutdown. And if and how that could affect like, the real estate business.